I was on the site within 2 weeks after it happened, and I saw none of these pancakes. Wouldn't they all be piled up in a huge mass on the ground? And yet everything was blown into dust.
Aerosolized.
You know, and when you look at it from that aspect, none of it makes any sense. If you apply common sense again to it, it does not make any sense. Never before in the annals of history has a fire caused a steel-structured building to fall to the ground.
Governor Ventura
did.
As the way, three of them did. Governor Ventura, stay with us. 70-second break. We're coming right back to you, coming in hot. And as a underwater demolitions expert, I want to get your take on explosives. We'll be right back. We're back live, ladies and gentlemen. Governor Jesse Ventura is our guest for another 15 minutes or so. The new book just came out yesterday, Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. As part of your SEAL training, you first went through underwater demolitions or frog teams, didn't you, sir? And so having a knowledge of controlled demolition, we've had a lot of engineers, physicists, architects look at it and say that even if jet fuel could have weakened the steel, it would have had a collapse where it fell over sideways or certain parts crinkled. It wouldn't have aerosolized and fallen straight down with pyroclastic flows of steel blown in 1- and 2-story pieces, sheared off at 45-degree angles with perfect blast points, shooting out hundreds of feet, and dust shooting out miles. Can you comment on that with your background, Governor, in underwater demolitions as a frogman?
Sure. First of all, it's the same training. You know, people, for some reason, want to separate the UDT from the SEAL, and it's all the same. Initially, it's called BUDS, which is Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. And when you graduate from BUDS, you're fully qualified as a demolition expert, whether you go to a UDT team or to a SEAL team. It's basically the needs of the Navy, and actually, they would generally send the better swimmers to the UDT teams because they tend to work a little bit more in the water. In every class, your top swimmers will go to the UDT teams, where your guys that can't quite swim as good will go to the SEAL team, but they're completely interchangeable, especially once you've completed what they called SEAL Cadre, which was Advanced Guerrilla Warfare. So I spent 3 years with Underwater Demolition Team 12, and then I spent 2 years attached to SEAL Team 1 in the reserves. But again, am I a demolition expert on a controlled demolition to drop a building? No, because our standard policy, when we would figure out how to blow something up, we would use the slide rule, and then we always had a standard rule: when in doubt, overload. So what that means is when you figure out how to blow it up, throw on an extra haversack of C4 just to make sure you get the job done. Because in our type of demolition work in warfare, you're not worried about whether everything blows up. You don't worry about a controlled demolition, which is what they would use to drop a building so that it wouldn't affect any of the other buildings.
My point is that you've worked with explosives. What does it look like to you?
Well, upon looking at the film in super slow motion and the way the building fell and comparing that to the way that they do like a controlled demolition of a hotel in Las Vegas, they both fell identical. And it just is beyond me. And I kick myself for when it initially happened that the light didn't go off. But again, I was so shocked that this thing had even taken place that I apologize for not being more aware, but I don't think I was alone, as were most of the people in the United States.
Well, what about 7? I mean, you talk about the free fall speed of the 110-story towers at the speed of gravity. 7 falls at the speed of gravity, and it's the classic where you see the penthouse fall, the central beam they blow out, then they blow the side beams, it collapses. The CIA, the FBI, Defense Intelligence, we're all based there. We have videos of police saying, "Get back, they're going to blow it up." Firemen saying, "Get back, the government said they're going to blow it up." Then they say, "Oh, we didn't blow it up." Have you seen those videos of police saying, "Get back"?
No, I have not. I haven't seen those, but I did watch the actual film of Building 7 going down, and in my opinion, there's no doubt that that building was brought down with demolition, and when you look at how that building came down, it came down identical to the other two.
Just incredible. When we come back, I want to talk about how we could investigate this or where this should go, Governor, in your view, and then your take on the war, and that's basically it. Final segment. with Governor Jesse Ventura, the new book, Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. And I know some stations just joined us that don't carry the first hour. Don't worry. The days to come, we're going to re-air this interview in its entirety. We'll be right back with the final segment with Jesse, the Mind Ventura.
Because there's a war on for your mind.
Well, we've got to have him back sometime in the near future. Just an amazing interview with former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura, Hollywood movie star, wrestling champion, best-selling author, surfer. And it's great getting to meet him in person when he was with Kinky Friedman. And we've had Willie Nelson called up a month or two ago and said, hey, I want to come on your show and talk about 9/11 being an inside job. And he came on and talked about it. Governor Ventura, what is the establishment going to do as one of the most respected living Italian presidents? Former head of their intelligence went public and said 9/11 was carried out by criminal elements of the government. What are people going to do as we see more and more and more and more former CIA section chiefs? We have just hundreds of engineers, physicists. We've got Bob Baer, that the movie Syriana's about, a famous SEAL commander, saying all the evidence points at inside job. We have underwriting laboratories. Kevin Ryan, they did internal tests and said it was impossible with Building 7. What are they going to do as the laws of physics come out here?
Well, they're going to continue to deny it. Your mainstream media is going to completely ignore anything. You know, the mainstream media has never shown the film of Building 7 going down. And what we have to do, in my opinion, is people like you and your radio show and people like me continue to tell people. Everywhere I go, I tell people to go to the Internet and watch Loose Change, because my son turned me on to that. And, of course, when he first told me, I thought, come on, you know, they can put anything on the Internet. And when I finally did watch it, you know, I went through every emotion you could imagine, from laughing, crying, getting sick to my stomach, to everything, the whole emotional thing. And I think the best thing we can do is just to keep communicating, and hopefully the truth will come out eventually if enough pressure is put on and enough people gain knowledge of what's going on in the world. And we don't want to lose our country. After all, it's still our country, and until they put us down, we have the power, and we have the power to vote these people out of office and get people in there that have the best interests of the country in mind.
Governor, I produced the Loose Change Final Cut. It just came out a few months ago. Have you seen that? I need to mail you a copy of it.
No, I have not, but I'll tell you what, Alex, when I get back to the States, I got your phone number here. I'll give you a call, and you can fire it up to me.
Absolutely. Or I can send
and I will be back in May, so it isn't that far off.
Fantastic. Now, I gave you a copy of Terror Storm. Did you have a chance to watch that?
Review it for me quick.
Remember when we met here in Texas, I gave you a copy?
Sure.
It's just the history of government-sponsored terrorism.
Okay. I vaguely remember it. Yeah, I've been reading so much and all that, yeah, definitely now I do.
You told me that you read 16 books in the interim researching this and other subjects. What are other questions you have about the official story?
Well, the other questions I have, again, are why was there no wreckage outside of the Pentagon when the Pentagon was supposedly hit by this other plane? And in fact, when I was watching Loose Change with a friend of mine, he happens to work for a company that helps to build the Boeing airplanes. And when they said that the engines completely disappeared and were destroyed, his response, excuse my French, was bullshit. and I turned to him and said, why? He said, because they're made out of titanium steel. They can't disintegrate.
Well, they said that the whole plane disintegrated.
Right. But the engines would never, because they're titanium steel.
Whoa. I wonder why they're still keeping all the cameras secret, too.
I don't know. Well, obviously why, Alex? They don't want any of us paying attention anymore. Remember something. Most people in the United States have a attention span of about, 30 minutes?
Yes.
And then they're on, and they don't pay attention after that. And the problem is, and I encourage people all the time, stop watching TV and start that old thing called reading. You know, start reading again, because it's the dumbing down of America that's happening right now. Case in point, last year, every major news station in America for 30 days covered the lead story of Anna Nicole Smith.
They did.
And I mean, I sat and got so angry because I thought, how does this woman warrant all of this?
It's a distraction.
She was a Playboy playmate and a gold digger.
Well, we have troops dying in Iraq. We have the economy going to hell in a handbasket. We have all this corruption. And in the 5 minutes we've got left with you, Governor, we are going to let you go because I know you're very busy and have a break before your next interview. I would like to get your take on the White House. Why did they think they could sell torture and White House memos about torturing children with pliers in front of their parents? Why did they think they could lie about WMDs? I mean, does that play into the hubris of folks that would be involved in the 9/11 attack?
Well, because always remember this, the most dastardly person in the world that I know of was Adolf Hitler.